Hi, I want to talk about year 2021 psychic predictions. And I kind of delayed this because I had made predictions for the year 2020 and almost everything has come true. But two predictions didn't come true, but came true in a sense, or that was not as much severity as I imagined it to happen. Uh, the two predictions that haven't come true, and I really expected it. Excuse me. Were the predictions that Iran will attack Israel and will completely occupy it, and that hasn't come true. But there's just so much has been going on that's pointing in that conclusion. Well, last week or last 2 weeks, Netanyahu and the Israeli generals are, making plans, and we're just gonna attack Iran on our own. Well, I pray that they would, because they will get demolished, and my psychic predictions will come true for the year 2020, just a little bit late. The other predictions for 2020 were that many US politicians will get killed, and this one also didn't entirely come true. It almost did on January 6th, but I think it will come true once they convict Trump and he loses hopes of ever becoming president again, and then the civil war will ensue. And well, I have had a vision that I saw many U.S. politicians get killed. I think it will come true. Well, God doesn't owe it to me to go according to my timeline. I've been thinking about this, why it didn't fall in this timeline, in this boundaries in time. And one kind of clue or idea is that, well, there is a verse in Quran which says, in the sight of God, religion is only Islam, which means that the universe, the divinity is going by Islamic timeline, by Islamic calendars. That's we are now coming to the end of 1400 years after Hijrah, after Prophet Muhammad went from Mecca to Medina, which is the very beginning of the Islamic solar calendar. We're completely 1400 years. 1400 years, 100 years for every interpretation of Quran, which means Muslims believe that Quran has 14 interpretations, and we are actually coming into a second Doran. The Doran means a complete circle of time. Well, that's kind of like conjecture. Oh well, many psychics, they go into stars and they're checking out Mercury and Saturn. And they believe that they have some influence. Pluto exerts influence, and this, I don't know, from far away. It may or may not. I don't know. I'm not that kind of psychic. My way of thinking about future events is very much on the Islamic tradition. And also in the year 2020, I also talked about that these years are the end times, and I went mostly by the psychic predictions or sayings of Prophet Muhammad for end times. And the one that I should have gotten into, I didn't really go over it as much, is that the Prophet Muhammad has prophecies that the end times there will be a ta'un. Ta'un is an old word which means like widespread pandemic or virus that comes in very mysteriously. He specifically would said that the ta'un will start from China, and millions of people will get killed with it, which is exactly what has happened. But I don't think coronavirus started in China. I think it was kind of engineered by by Americans. Well, in the early American history, the Americans or the Yankees had easy time capturing many Indian lands, is because they brought different viruses from Europe with them, which the Indians weren't used to, and they got infected and died, whereas the Europeans didn't. So this was kind of, I think that America or U.S. engages in biological warfare, and this virus was manipulated. It's nothing more than a simple variant of flu, but it has been accentuated. I don't know. I had a video about the coronavirus, and there are some remedies, but I don't want to go over there. Every psychic has a grand view of the world, like a cosmological view. If you go on YouTube, you see that many psychics, they consult the stars. The good ones, I think the Sufi master himself believed that the universe that manifests as stars and constellations, it exerts influence on Earth, and this influence shows up in our affairs. But I don't use that. I don't believe in that. I think that God is intimately part of our lives, part of our soul, and he, or I think I would use the word she, exerts influence and is unneedy of the stars, or it is a more direct influence, and you can see this influence or images or clues in dreams, and you don't need to go to the stars too. But I think going to the stars has the advantage, because most people have a fixed view of daily lives, and it kind of makes it hazy, and then your soul can come in. Which is, in its mechanism, is the exact same thing that I am doing. I go mostly by dreams and hunches and images that come through, or what the ghost said or implied or induced, rather than go by some ulterior, there are other systems psychics use. Some I've seen in Iran, they like pour some milk into the coffee, black coffee, and it makes swirls and images. It kind of makes a psychic start going in a direction that she needs to go to see the future. Some psychics they use that. My sister uses that, but I don't believe in that. Uh, what I think in the year 2021 will happen is that those two events that didn't quite complete in the year 2020, they're going to complete here. And we'll have a full-fledged civil war in the United States. And Trump will get assassinated this time. But, well, let's see how far we go in that direction. Well, let's go into a different kind of mode of thinking. You know, like when many morgues, in many hospitals, like somebody just had a cardiac attack and they just died. Okay, so death, as the Western medical practices they define it, is like the heart stop for so many minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, and this person doesn't have other signals in, like in brain or something like that, and they kind of transfer him to the part of the hospital which is like basically functions as the morgue. But in many hospitals, they don't put the dead body in a freezer. Okay, there is a very good reasons for that too. They usually just put them on a stretcher, flat out, and let this body sit there for like, I don't know, 48 hours, 72 hours, and sometimes, you know, by grace of God, you know, I believe we all have ghosts. Something happens, Jesus comes around, and Imam Ali has interest in this wretched thing. He'll come and say something, and the ghost comes like, oh my God, I haven't finished everything I needed to do. I mean, in my case, it would be that, oh my God, you know, that blonde. I could have done much better with her. Why didn't I finish that? I mean, there is a million reasons. But some people can induce the ghost of a dead to come back. Hey, you need to finish this. Or the relatives in the other side would say, no, you need to go back. But it happens sometimes, but then it's less frequent after 72 hours, you know, like after, I don't know, 4 days. Well, Jesus brought somebody back more than 4 days, I don't know, a week, but, you know, they put the body in the freezer because it's going to rot. But even when it's on the stretcher, it's kind of cool and letting things simmer down. So death, it takes, it gradually happens. It happens over like a week, maybe, complete death. But even dead, when somebody is dead, their beard still start, they're growing. You know, some parts of the body that continue to function and go on. But here comes the conclusion that I think that the Western civilization, the economic system that they had, which was laissez-faire capitalism, and you know, those liberal values or sentiments or ideas they had, the government and the economic system and the set of laws and social norms, that were built not by us at this age or time, but by different people, older generations in the 50s and 60s, right? The society that we have is reflected in the world, and all the rotten things the United States has been doing in the world is really the product of consciousness or buildings and doing things of these people, white people in the 50s and 60s or even earlier. And those people, they have grow older, they're either dying or in the nursing home, right? And this society is not really functioning. None of this stuff is really what is. There is interconnections, like a dead person. There is interconnections between the brain and the legs. Everything is there, but nothing works. Nothing is really functioning. Nothing has symptoms of life. So, keep these ideas in mind. Well, I watch some of these videos. These days, U.S. is busy, making stimulus. Are we gonna stimulate this? We're gonna give you some money for that. And it's like somebody, a mortician, takes a huge syringe of formaldehyde and pumps it into the veins of a dead person, and the formaldehyde actually makes this person look like they're doing great, they're alive, but everything is wrong. Well, only sometimes the show is so good you think, hey, this is well, I want to carry these ideas a little bit more, talk about Israel, and that kind of like a hint what's to come. The Israeli filmmakers was making a film that they were trying to promote tourism, or I don't know what they were doing. They were promoting something, and they wanted to take pictures or videos of like Tel Aviv or other cities, and show this is the society. And there was actually so little population and activity going on in the city, and the filmmakers said, hey, I'm gonna just do something else for this scene. I'm gonna go take pictures of the streets of Beirut, and then do a little hijacking, like how Israel comes in and hijacks foreign policies of other nations. Well, we're gonna do a little hijacking of everybody, even the guy in the street. And they made the movie, and later on somebody figured out, hey, this is not Tel Aviv, this is Haifa. But this kind of gives you a clue, like a psychic premonition, is a clue of what's happening, that these other societies, the Arab and Muslim countries, they are actually alive. Their economy is alive. They're growing. Iran's economy is growing at 3 to 7%. China's economy, manufacturing is growing 3 to 7%. African countries are becoming more wealthy, and they are alive. Economically and socially, their society is evolving. This society is very similar to recently departed, and we are just kind of prettying that up for a later time when they have to really bury the body, because it will start to really stink. Well, when in a place the economic flow, the legitimate actual economy, the real economy, it dies, then there is all this infrastructure is left, and they will disintegrate. Not in a physical sense, in a financial and political sense. Every part is going to go, has to function on its own, because there is no more central government, a central bank that's going to pump all this money into it. Well, then that brings us into another discussion, that what will happen after the U.S. Central bank issues all these stimulus and all these monies, and they come into the economy, and then they do nothing that they expected it to do. It means failure in every sense. Not only United States tried the fascist model, it didn't work. Now they're trying to use the communist model, and it won't work either. It shows the death, but this time the people, they're gonna know it. They're gonna sense it. It's like when you believe in an authority, in a bank or in a religious leader, and later on you discover that, hey, he he's a pedophile. He's been hiding all this trash all this time. Your belief was is really bullshit. But what happens when this happens? When this second death comes in? I had a video. It was called "Death by Irrelevance." Death by irrelevance. Sometimes death doesn't happen by lethal injection, doesn't happen by foreign attacks, but in other societies, like when the Ottoman Empire died, there were like a smaller state remained, a fascist state. Ataturk came in, and if you look at his ideology, is similar to fascism, is pan-Turkism. In Iran, the old empire died, then Reza Shah came in. He was actually a fascist, and then in other countries, same. When an empire dies, it leaves a fascist state behind. It leaves like a strong man, Trump, with a bunch of violent, well, actually, there was a all the Star Trek. Have you seen that one? Captain Kirk goes into this planet, and there is these two groups. One of them, it's a barbaric kind of society. One of them is called Yanks, and the other one is called commies, or I don't know what's Japs, Yanks and Japs, and they're both vicious. They keep killing each other with very crude weapons, and he just tries to figure out what happened here. But the future of United States is this: is a more primitive society where there is a complete polarization. You have a state in California, like the commies, and you'll have a state in far east, like the Yanks. I don't know why I can't get a good role in a series like a Star Trek. I'm a good actor. Yeah, I'm psychic. Anyhow, well, the internationally, United States has gone into every country and overthrown their government. They have all this influence, and there's all these little fascist states everywhere that they adhere to Western values. They're like Israel, we have Bahrain, we have we have Qatar, UAE. By the way, UAE, Middle Easterns, Muslims, they don't call UAE UAE. They call Emiratis. And then we have the Azerbaijan, and then the Armenia is trying to get born out of Azerbaijan, and then the other little fascist states in like Ukraine and Norwegia, all these little states that the United States has been paying off the local mafia, and there's really a government, but they depend on the United States for their economic sustenance, for their economy to go on, because every once in a while U.S. injects money into their and for their military, because it's really the U.S. military that protects them against anybody. But then what happens when the U.S. Economy is that when the empire dies from inside, like the person who's dead and is on the stretcher in hospital, what happens to the hand and to the legs, to the eye, to the brain? They start rotting. This is the exact same thing that's going to happen to many countries. Many little fascist states, United States has been popping up everywhere. They start to rot. Then there is internal turnover. You will see a lot of places it will go socialist, but more like a nationalist flavor of socialism. That the local people and the parties that were suppressed by the American-sponsored regimes, they'll see there is a vacuum of power, and they'll just waltz right in. Okay. Then the other thing that will happen is that places like Israel, they are still going by the old dogma. They think the United States is able and capable and willing to come in and get killed for their stupid little regime, and when they discover that might not happen, or even if it did happen, it won't do any good, then they will strike out, like Israel is doing now, will strike out against the much stronger foreign military, and this time Iran is gonna they're gonna demolish. You won't exist anymore. But hey, people have to find things out. In reality, this is the when you watch some movies or Greek tragedies, you kind of have a clue. Hey, this is gonna go wrong. You know it more than a few scenes back to where an actual tragic event happens. But hey, the actors, they might not know it. They believe what they want to believe. Like many governments, little governments, they want to believe certain philosophies. But every philosophy has a conclusion and a consequence. The other trend is that the economic growth in foreign countries, in many countries, Asian countries, Central Asian countries, Chinese, Pacific Rim Asian countries, even small European countries, Eastern European countries, their economy is just going to explode. There is all these technologies coming in with cryptocurrencies, private money. There is development in information technology, in 3D printing, in artificial intelligence, in well, many places, say a little country, they are not bound by these military and requirements or the desire to spy on everybody or the corporations wanting the technology to be used in a way that will not damage their existing business. Many countries they don't have many resources, and if a technology comes around that generates a lot of wealth, it solves their problems. Excuse me. They will use that, and they are the ones that will get wealthy, and they will resolve many of their problems, and many of the problems that the world has is because of Western militarism and desire to control other countries. And if you are a little country somewhere, Iran or Iraq, you don't care about that stuff, you're just going to use this technology to better yourself, well, you are going to get better. And usually these new technologies, they create thousands of times of wealth that the older technologies would produce. For example, I was talking to my brother in Iran, and he likes getting into cryptocurrencies, and I was telling him I have some iota, I'm going to give it to you, and well, I was kind of thinking, hey, he has to go get a computer, he has to do this and that. I said, my sister and my brother said, no, we all have these iPhones, Galaxy, whatever. You can transfer there is a little file that has the code to get into this, and also the other code. We can go from there. And my brother said, oh yeah, give me some iota, I'll just sell it to the local money exchange. And he was showing me, hey, he told me stuff about it that I didn't know myself. And I have all these iotas. Well, what if this happened in many countries, many formerly poor countries? I'm using an app that has all the TVs in many countries. I was watching a TV in Iran. I think they call themselves OFO, which is is a very religious broadcast. Readings of Quran, the Azan, and lectures, translations. This station is way on the other side of the world, and I was accessing it. It was just like being at home, being back to Iran, and with WhatsApp, I'm able to. It's just like I have a presence in Iran. My family thinks that their older brother is just back. With the ability to transfer money through cryptocurrencies and hawala, and with the constant communication in video and audio. What's the difference if I was there or I wasn't there? You know what I mean? I'm not there physically, but I'm really there. Well, then this brings us to the next level, is that every place is going to become a locality. Every single place. Africa, if I had a brother in Africa, Africa would become like just the village next door because of all the communication. And then I could start buying or selling or doing anything that Africa has to offer. This also cascades into the next discussion that then business can go on anywhere. It doesn't need United States. It doesn't need Western world. And these laws, immigration or social laws and norms, or military laws and threats, or sanctions, they, they, they're useless because there's a million ways under it and over it, and this is the way Western civilization has survived and has managed to torment the world. What if there is all these other ways that the world can just brush them aside? I think that their social control, or military control, or whatever kind of control they had, it has evaporated. And but I think that the United States can become a very good consumer market, which means like just using these bastards like a battery, you know, sell them anything and take the money and do something better with it. Well, this is the exact advice of the best economic forecaster, manager. For example, if you listen to Peter Schiff, he'll tell you, get out of the US dollar, invest in foreign stocks, land. A lot is going to go wrong here. We're just at the beginning of it. And what else? I had a video, was called Singularity Dysfunction. Singularity dysfunction means that the technological changes, the abundance that comes in is so counterintuitive to the way many Africans, many Muslims, many Iranians, many Americans have been thinking, that there is a mismatch. And the best thing to do with this future is to use these new technologies, ideas, to not only get rid of the old problems or old adversaries or sidestep them, but also to generate a lot of wealth, and not to do the old stuff anymore. Let new things, new technologies and methods, and just go with the flow of it. You don't have to reenact. Oh, well, as a psychic, I have like dreams. In my dreams, I see all kinds of ghosts come in. You know, when you're asleep, your mind becomes like, your soul becomes like a tabelio rasa, like any entity, or I hope, well, never mind, any kind of person that you're kind of have an affinity to, they can come in. I've had dreams of Jesus, Imam Ali, so they come in, and when you see these ghosts, they act and say or believe or do things that they would do exactly like when they were alive. But the difference is that when you are alive, you are in the physical world, you can do things differently. Your beliefs can change. But in the ghost or the spirit world, you can't do that. You are stuck with whatever you collected, or whatever impressions that you had in the material world. So if you believe that you are not dead and you're a living person, you can still evolve and change, and do good things or do things differently. But if you are part of the American system or Western system, and you're really dead, you will be like those ghosts. You will go back and try to make America better again, and bring the 50s back, and publish more stimulus, make these bozos pay their rent and do this and that. That's just like ghosts. Ghosts also. In my dream, in this tabelli rasa, I do see many ordinary people too, and they come in. And you see them, have concerns about where to shop. Well, uh, I could talk about commodities and deflation, and but I've had other videos about this. Well, go see my video called "Death by Irrelevance," and that's kind of the theme. Uh, Also, there is a lot of extinctions that's going to happen in this year and the following years of many types of people uh, that they're going to disappear. For example, when the coronavirus came in, it killed many people that had AIDS. Well, AIDS came in, it's the emergent virus, it killed many gays, many people, and they had weak immune system. But when the next one came in, it just completely demolished them. And the drugs that were geared for AIDS were not working for this other virus. But there were 2, 3 different maladies. The body doesn't know what to do with them. Same with, say, for example, Zionist state has all these enemies everywhere and now wants to strike other countries too. They're gonna get demolished, and you don't have to be psychic to get that. But also, I think that there will be some kind of capitalism, or there will be some kind of manufacturing in the United States again. Or it will look nothing like we had in the 50s or 60s. There will be manufacturing by machines making more machines, machines making unlimited amount of stuff very cheaply. It will become a zero marginal cost society. The companies that own these machines or these corporations, yes, there will be a form of capitalism, but the other companies that make memes, that they're gonna die off. Excuse me. My psychic predictions are different than many psychics. Also, that I get impressions like all the other psychics, but I don't try to impose values that I've acquired somewhere else. It's like a philosophy that's built on actual psychic experiences. It's not built on stars, it's not built on ideology. Thank you very much. Please subscribe, leave your comment. I appreciate it.